Welcome to another interview. We're here with Zach to talk about his time as a war reenactor. All the way from Scotland. Welcome to the interview, Zach.
Hi, how you doing, Ben? You all right?
Very good, thank you.
Um, yeah, good man. So yeah, I used to be a Second World War reenactor. Um, I was for about a decade now, for a Second World War reenactment group based in Scotland. I guess why I used to do it was one, it's a good drinking club. There's a lot of camaraderie. But I generally do had an interest in history, and it looked like a good thing to get into to sort of further explore the life of a soldier in a particular time period. For me, it was Second World War, and the things you don't necessarily get to see in a documentary about the sort of bigger picture battles. And so the sort of stuff we used to do would be, we would go to historical fairs put on either by local towns or um, other reenactors. We'd also do events put on by us to showcase our groups, our military vehicles to the public, and pass on a bit of education, and so people can have a sort of nice day out in the sun, go see some guys in uniforms and go shoot some guns and maybe ride around in a tank. That was quite fun. So the I was German reenactor. We portrayed the 130th Panzer Division, which coincidentally is the division that all of the German vehicles in Hell Let Loose have the insignia for. That big L on everything's for Panzerlehr. Um, and the area we portrayed generally was D-Day. Around the town of I want to say Tilly-sur-Seulles, which is near the city of Caen in Normandy. And then after that, the division would fight around Saint-Lô against the Americans on the other side of Normandy. Yeah, it was quite fun. We would put on a display, and we'd be in uniform. We'd have machine guns or MG42s, MG34s. We had a couple of FG42s from the Fallschirmjäger part of the group, and generally a lot of your time is spent on the we would call it the picket line. Basically the boundary between our set and where the public have access to, and you talk to the public about life as a soldier. My particular position was I used to run a mortar crew. So we'd have three of us, and all three of us would take it in turns to talk about how we operated the mortar, and then we'd go into the different parts of the uniform that we had, because our uniforms were slightly different to all the other German uniforms, so we had something to talk about that. And then obviously the bit everyone's interested in is the STG 44s, the K98s, and we'd go through drills with these weapon systems as well, and sort of demonstrate kind of how they were used. And then generally you'd get a lot of the younger sort of members of the public, kids and stuff, they wanted to get photos with the guns, so you'd give them a helmet to wear, and they'd get a photo with the soldier and stuff. So yeah, that was the kind of that's generally what we got up to. And then obviously when the public go, you've still got to keep yourself entertained, so it's beer o'clock barbecue, Steins and singing Erica around the campfire.
Obviously, slightly different to that the soldiers themselves would have found themselves in.
Yeah. So our camp, we deliberately modeled our camp off something that would be in basically the second or third line where you would rotate back from your frontline fighting positions. You could rotate back, get a hot meal, get a shave, clean uniform. So we 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 try to keep it, as comfortable and civilized for us, but and within something that we could realistically portray. So it's actually quite hard to do a sort of frontline fighting position if you're not allowed to dig trenches, for example. So we worked out the tents, big canvas, either captured British bell tents or repurposed gun covers, or we also made the Zeltbahn tents. The If there was any Eastern European listeners who are ex-military, I think the Hungarians still do this, where they use the ponchos that you get issued, and you can build them into big tents. So we would sleep in them as well, and they were not very comfortable. But it does give you an appreciation for, even though ostensibly, yeah, for me being a Brit, the Germans are the bad guys, but it does give you an appreciation of um, what these men went through. Whether they're on the good side or the bad side of history, and we'd even go as far as, like, the food we would eat would have to be, something you could find in Normandy. So if we're or it'd have to be German army rations as well. So if there wasn't any sort of burgers or fries or stuff like that, you couldn't get a Coca-Cola, but you could get Fanta, because Fanta was the drink that the Germans invented when Coca-Cola imports stopped. And you have your meats and cheeses and stuff, and it was really good. Like, you felt like you could at least get a good sense of how it was for the guys back in 1944. You know, um, and obviously getting to play with guns is also quite fun. So, but we'd also do battle reenactments as well. This was the other half of it, where we'd actually go and a lot of the rifles that you see at these reenactments are real firearms on someone's firearms certificate, and they're running blank ammunition through it. Um, so I think my K98 that I have, which is upstairs just now, is um was I think it was a Slovenian made receiver with that was captured by the Russians as part of the war reparations. So you know a lot of the kit that we had, a lot of the weapon systems had weird quirks like that. Like, we had a guy who had an MG34 that was given as lend lease to the Israelis, so it had all the swastikas rubbed out, and then had Israeli crests on everything. It's just it was quite funny. But and then a couple of other stuff would have the swastikas rubbed out, and it'd have Bundeswehr, um, like West German insignia stamped over the top, because a lot of it was reused after the war. But yeah, with the battles, we'd have other reenactment groups, particularly obviously around where I am. There's a lot of British reenactors. There are a couple of American groups as well, and you do like a sort of semi choreographed battle with pyrotechnics, and there'd be a commentary typically as well from either one of us or one of the group organizers. So the obviously for me, the battle for me was just dropping bombs down a mortar tube, and then invariably getting captured or killed at the end, because the bad guys aren't allowed to win. So yeah, you get used to getting shoved about at the end by some burly Brit, or get the from the Dad's Army, they don't like it up, Captain Mannering kind of deal. But that was fun. It was really enjoyable. It's a shame, really, that it's kind of dying out a little bit now, because a lot of the younger generation, like my age. I mean, I'm coming up to 30, but even younger just aren't really getting into it anymore. It's an expensive hobby, and a lot of the organizers don't really have the budget anymore to sort of have these big events, which is I think we're genuinely losing something. Even um, the British groups are starting to struggle as well. So
Well,
um,
hopefully with the 80th anniversary, obviously, of VA Day, maybe there might be
mm,
a little bit of increased interest, or
I hope so.
yeah, or a little bit more funding, maybe potentially going back into it. Because as you did say, it's a great scheme to
Mm,
have, and as an education tool for those. Because obviously,
yeah,
the reason that we're obviously celebrating this 80th anniversary right now is to commemorate what happened and to remember.
yeah,
Because
exactly.
yeah, we can't forget what happened and what those people went through.
No, no. I mean, we're not. There's always a big thing. Oh, you're an actor. You're obviously a historian. We're not really historians. If you've got a degree in history, specifically about the Second World War, you probably will have more knowledge about um, the sort of broader strokes, the maneuvers, the calibers of every weapon system, etc. But what we brought to the table was, how your life would be shaped by, the equipment, the situation, the stuff that you could and couldn't do. For instance, we always had to be clean shaven, and regardless of where you were, which one of the reasons I don't do it is I quite like having a beard now. So, um, but there'd be stuff like that, and the food, and even looking after uniform. And we went as far as we would do a drill parade every morning, and if there were, we had a point system for attendance as well, so we could showcase to the public stuff that they might not see, like an award ceremony for if you're getting like an assault badge or a wound badge or something. We could show the public what that ceremony would kind of look like. Um, excuse me. And you don't get that from the history books, I don't think. And you don't get the um it was stuff like we had a guy who had his whole setup was, you know, all the personal effects that a soldier would have. So it'd be like issued um decks of cards. We'd even go as far as we'd repackage cigarettes into what the ration packets of cigarettes would look like. Um, and just being able to showcase that, I think is it humanizes the the events of 80 years ago. Rather than you see a documentary and it's all just black and white footage with a very dramatic American commentator talking about the movements of this division and that division, but it doesn't really give you an appreciation of these are actual people, and you know regardless of what side they were, um, these were lived experiences, and for 80 years down the line, a lot of that is not in living memory anymore. Um, there was an event that we did up in Scotland, at a place called Culty Bragan. If you're ever up there, I very much recommend it. It's an old prisoner of war camp that the MOD took over as a training camp. So they kept a lot of the original infrastructure built for the German prisoners, and a lot of the POWs there actually stayed in that area. Um, because they didn't want to get deported to East Germany, or what was then East Germany under the Soviets. Um, and you'd be dressed in. I was in a Kriegsmarine uniform, so that'd be German Navy, and um, you'd have people come up to you and be like, you look like my father or my granddad or something, which was really touching. It really it puts a sort of lump in your throat when an older woman comes up to you and says, this is a photo of my grandfather who was captured at the sinking of. I think he got captured during the Norwegian campaign, and was taken to the UK to be a prisoner of war. And his uniform was almost exactly like mine. And he looked very similar to me, and it was like, wow, that's a lot to sort of process, It's thin. It just furthers that these were actual people, and I think it helps. What we did as reenactors. I think it definitely helps. Get people sort of thinking and remember the people rather than the divisions and the maneuvers, which I think is where we should go with the 80th anniversary that's coming up.
Absolutely. I think that is a
Mm.
perfect way to end this interview, remembering
Yeah,
the people behind it. And
yeah.
I thought I just like to say a huge thank you once again for coming on, Zach. It was lovely to hear from you. If anybody out there is interested in reenactments, be sure to look out for your local division or or hosting people, because as mentioned, it's becoming a little bit of a lost art form, and it would be great
Mm.
to see more of it happen, just as a way of
Yeah,
um, getting people more aware of what happened and the people behind the war.
yeah. It would be good. If this interview gets 2 or 3 people to maybe just go on Google and be like, well, what's my local reenactment group? Hey, I might join up. Even if they do, even if they want to do a couple of years and see how it goes, I think that's a win. Because there's more people to the hobby, and there's more ways that as another person that can show the public what it was like being a soldier.
Amazing.
So yeah, thank you for having me, Ben.
It's been lovely hearing from you. Thank you so much for your time today.
Yep, thank you, Ben. Cheers.